Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. So I filmed this video while I was out on the bike today, and I used a new mount that I found for my GoPro that actually mounts the GoPro to the stem, and it was facing up at me. I'm going to play the footage now because it actually turned out like better than expected. Sorry, I was just doing an interval. That was the 50-30s, 50 seconds, 135% of FTP, which is almost 9 watts per kilo for me. Oh my word. But I thought it would be something that we could go back to in the future for certain videos because it allows me to go hands-free with the GoPro. So this video was highly requested. I was sent a particularly long message by Dan, who basically went as far as to ask, like, what does my weekly structure look like? And not to beat around the bush too much, I'll just get into it because I think even though it's nice to see maybe what I do, you shouldn't really compare to it because everybody's different, and I'll get into that in a second. You'll see why. It's very personalized. So I'll pull up on the screen now actually. My week of training, particularly this week for example, so I have 2 hill climbs on this weekend, and we'll start there. So Saturday, first hill climb, so I'll do a warm-up, anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour usually. Then I'll race the hill climb, so you can imagine the hill climb is quite short, so you don't get a lot of you know, I guess fatigue from it. You're likely to get more fatigue from the actual warm-up than you are the hill climb itself. So I will do that on Saturday, and then this Saturday in particular I've got a long drive up to Newcastle after it, so that's like a 5-hour drive. I won't get there till about 9-10 p.m. And then the next morning we do the Headley on the hill climb, so I'll do another warm-up, likely to be like at least an hour because of the travel, so I want to get my legs moving and, you know, my body moving as much as possible. So I'll do a warm-up, the hill climb, and then, because in theory I'm playing on the fact that, you know, on the weekend, which are the hill climbs, I want to be in my best shape of the whole week. So I'm going to try during this hill climb season to make the most of Sunday and go for a ride either directly after the hill climb or in the evening when I get back. Now it'll be a long drive on Sunday to get home, so I may skip that, and I may just do a training session on Monday morning instead. But the idea is that, you know, if a hill climb is close enough to home, then I'll make the most of the day, and I'll do a couple of extra intervals as well because you know, the hill climb itself, even though it's a big effort, it's not necessarily a hard enough effort, and technically you'd be detraining if you just did those on the weekend. That's for me personally. Okay, this is for me personally. I need, because the reason why this question was asked was because people are seeing me doing 3 to 5 hour rides during the week now, and they're wondering why I'm doing that when my hill climbs are, you know, just like between like 2 minutes and, you know, 6 minutes in length. Some of them, you know, Paul, give or take, are like 10 plus minutes. But you get the idea, like, why am I doing this? So I get onto that now in a minute. That's a very Welsh phrase. I'll get onto that now. But what I do is I know, well, at least I should know after all these years, where or what I need to perform my best. I am, as it goes, like a stage racer in a way. Every time I've raced a stage race, I've always got better as the week has gone on. The more fatigue I have doesn't necessarily mean, you know, the more tired I get. I'm probably one of those cyclists that as you get more tired, you actually produce your better numbers. But there is a sweet spot, as with, you know, everybody. So for me, I know that my CTL needs to be probably between 100 and 110. At the minute, it's like 98, or at least at the end of this week, it'll be 98. My fatigue and my form are 98 and 0. But really, I probably perform better when my form's a minus figure, and my fatigue is kind of over 100. But everybody's different, and it takes a lot of kind of digging around to find that perfect balance for each and every rider. But I won't get sidetracked on that in a minute. I'm jumping down what I'll do in the week, during the week then, building up to that hill climb. And Monday, if, for example, I do get a ride after this Sunday's hill climb, Monday will either be a rest day, because I'm trying to recover from the travel, or it'll be like a 90-minute to 2-hour steady ride. And the TSS there is likely to be like basically really low, less than 50 on most occasions. It comes back to what I said about, like, the fitter you are, the harder it is to maintain fitness, and therefore the harder you have to go, or rather the longer your sessions have to be to accumulate the same kind of TSS and the same kind of stimulus you're looking for in order to stay at that level. The thing that I'm struggling with at the minute is doing like the volume to maintain that form and that and to build that fitness just a little bit, because personally that's how I respond really well. I find that if I do lots of zone 3, kind of not quite sweet spot but upper zone 3, as well as doing very little high intensity, the irony is that I respond really well to that, and my high intensity actually becomes really good, just from doing lots and lots of conditioning, is what I would call it, lots of conditioning in that kind of zone 3 range. So that's also one of the ways in which I'm able to build TSS without actually carrying a lot of fatigue either. And lots of people talk about zone 3 being, that middle ground kind of, crappy area. But it does have its place, particularly in places like this, So it's everything has its own part to play. And even though I'm a fan of polarized training, zone 3 still has that part in this instance. So for me, Tuesday then likes to be that high intensity day where, I'm still a little bit fatigued from the weekend probably, but now I'm able to I'm probably the freshest I'm going to be all week, apart from, Saturday probably, or Sunday, whichever day the hill climb is. And I like to think about how I'm going to use Tuesday to get the maximum benefit out of what I'm actually training for. So that's probably going to be my specific day. And the intervals I do on that day, they're not going to be like, particularly like, they're not going to ruin me, but they are going to be working that, like I said, the event specific stuff. So it is going to take its toll, but that doesn't mean the volume will be low, because at the end of the day I'm still trying to keep that overall volume high in order to get, because if I just went out and did an hour with just these intervals, I could be going really, really hard, but I'm only getting 50 TSS, 60 TSS an hour, or in that hour. So then overall I'm actually losing fitness in a very relative term. So how this then plays into the next 2 days, so it's almost like a pyramid shape. Tuesday will be, say, 3 hours with those hard intervals at the beginning of that ride, and then it could be 4 to 5 hours on the Wednesday. This can be split into 2 sessions as well, like morning and evening, which is what I've been doing with RGT and the virtual racing in the evening. That in itself is great training for me, because I'm actually riding in that kind of upper zone 3 sweet spot area anyway, and still able to put in a good performance in the event. That's not taking away anything from anybody else's effort. That's just what I'm able to do. And therefore Thursday, because Wednesday tends to be this kind of the zone 3 focus day, or the day where I can really kind of drive that TSS up, the Thursday tends to be a mixture of the two. So I end up doing kind of 3 hours with, the zone 3 focus again, but with not so much the actual specific high intensity, but more the kind of polarized, the 30-30s, those sort of intervals rather, to kind of see me through. And then Friday is like either a day off, again, depends how I feel, or it's basically, a steady ride, 90 minutes, 60 minutes to 2 hours, basically. So that's kind of how I ride the wave then. It is very much like you start the week here, you build a little bit, and you come down for the weekend, and the weekend you hit like a little wave, and then that takes you into the next week, and then you hit a big wave. And that in a way is like undulating periodization, whereby I'm still trying to keep myself in this area, but not being too fatigued, not being too fresh at the same time, because for me, that's the balance. And I know that for a lot of you, because you haven't got the time, and to be honest, I'm struggling with the time a little bit as well, putting in those hours is not like, you haven't got the time to do that. And what I'd say to most of you is if you haven't got the time to do 3 or 4 hours, but you want to try and follow or experiment with that type of approach during this hill climb season, then what I'd say is get to a point where you can do more zone 3, for example, in a session. So instead of me doing a 3-hour ride on the Wednesday, and doing 2 hours of up zone 3, and then that 1 hour then in between is just kind of poodling along, maybe make your sessions as bang for the buck as possible, and just do jump on the bike, bang, 2 hours up zone 3, done. 120 TSS or whatever that may be for you, it's done, and it's not taking up too much of your time. Split days, double days, another perfect way of doing it. With my TSS for these kind of periods, as you can see, I'm doing like 16.5-hour weeks, give or take, but still fairly intense, like 800 TSS roughly, but they come in specific areas during the week. The thing is, like, going back to Dan's question, he follows the kind of traditional approach where people do train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but as he says, relatively time crunched, and then he's more likely to do a longer ride on a Sunday with some efforts thrown in. But what I definitely say is, 1 day a week where you are completely race specific, 1 day a week where you target TSS and you're just trying to drive that TSS up, but without, like I said, too much intensity, because you don't want to take the edge off. It's all about that balance. And then, that third day then is probably a mixture of the two, on a Thursday, for example, but you can always play around the way you put that. What I would say is, like, for the most part, that's just me talking about like my weekly setup. You might find that causes too much fatigue for you, and if it does, then you just need to just check yourself and remember that above all else, you need to be firing on race day, and if you're not firing on race day, then you need to change something in the week. So it is that give or take, and just making sure that the balance is there. And that might take 2 weeks again used to, or it might take the whole hill climb season. But at the end of the day, your data collecting, and hopefully will serve you well next year. So thank you so much for watching. If you got any kind of value out of this whatsoever, please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate it, and it helps the channel out as well. And if you know of anybody doing any hill climb races and events, then share this video with them, and maybe they can get some tips from it as well. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.